Insidious: The Last Key is directed by Alan Robitel and stars Lynn Shay, who has been a staple of the Insidious franchise. And she plays Elise, who is a ghost hunter who travels back to her childhood home in New Mexico to confront a demon who terrorized her past. This is the fourth movie in the Insidious franchise, but it actually takes place before the first one. And to be honest, neither of us have seen any of the other Insidious movies, so we didn't really know what to expect. It's a January horror movie, so we didn't go in with the highest of hopes, but it actually turned out a little bit better than what we thought. The best thing I can say about this movie is Lynn Shay. She is 74 years old in real life, and she absolutely owns this movie. Every scene she's in, she steals it. She's easily the best actor here, and to be honest, she kinda saves this movie from being a complete dumpster fire. The movie also looks really good. Toby Oliver is the cinematographer here. He's behind Get Out, which was one of my personal favorite horror movies of 2017. Between him and Alan Robitel, I think they actually do a pretty good job at setting up an effectively creepy atmosphere for this movie. Speaking of which, the opening scene is actually very effectively creepy. It shows a young Elise who's putting up with an abusive father. And around this time in her childhood, she's introduced to this demon who has haunted her past. The demon in this movie was actually pretty cool. I really like the key hand design. It's something I've never seen in a horror movie. But then they did the full reveal, and I'm going to turn it over to Walter.
So as Chris was saying, the demon had a pretty good design, but as soon as he was revealed, it was an anticlimactic moment. And he was barely in the movie after that. Also, I gotta say, the way that they defeat this demon at the end, this demon that's been terrorizing people for years and years in this house, it's pretty ridiculous. It left me kind of speechless, to be honest. And really, the whole ending just felt a little too lighthearted for a horror movie like this. It was a little cheesy, and they threw in some humor that really did not land. One of my biggest problems with this movie is I felt it relied a little too heavily on the jump scares. Chris didn't think it was too much of an issue, but it really annoyed me. I felt that most of the movie was just characters going into rooms, and then the sound would drown out, and a really predictable jump scare would happen. There are also a lot of weird transition jump scares. Like a scene will end, and a character will just slam a door really loud, and that's meant to scare the audience. All you need to know about this movie is that there's a generator jump scare in it. A character turns a generator on to start a scene, and a bunch of people in the theater that we were in jumped. But the biggest problem with this movie, and Chris and I are both in definite agreement about this, was the comic relief. So Elise has these two sidekick characters. They keep making this running joke that they're her sidekicks, and it didn't land a single time. They're played by Lee Winnell, who was one of the writers of this movie, and Angus Sampson, who I really enjoyed in season 2 of Fargo. In this movie, they're not very enjoyable to watch. All of the jokes are pretty cringeworthy. The jokes from these two characters were physically painful. There were so many moments where I just had my head in my hands sitting there in the theater. I'm not joking. So most of the scenes involving these characters were pretty painful to watch. Especially their role in the ending was excruciating. And unfortunately, it wasn't just them. The acting as a whole was pretty weak. Lynn Shay was definitely the best part about this movie.
I thought the movie as a whole was decent at best. I don't feel like I wasted my time with this movie, but I'm not going to rush back to the theater to go see it again. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
I think fans of the Insidious series will like it. It wasn't very good in my opinion though, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.